Well, it finally happened. Washington State loses its quarterback to the transfer portal for a second straight year. This one stings for Washington State in a big way. When you lose a player of Cam Ward's caliber at a program that is up in Pullman, Washington, the number of times you're going to, in today's world, be able to replace that guy immediately with someone who is as productive is not often. Heck, major programs struggle to do that. You just watched Michigan go from a first-round pick at quarterback to 3 different guys who averaged less than 100 passing yards a game each. Davis Warren might have gotten that over that mark at the second half of the year, but you understand the point. It's not always easy. Florida State, do you think they're a committed program? They just went from Jordan Travis to DJ Uiagalelei, who's declared for the NFL draft, and I wish him all the best in that particular endeavor. I think we all know how it's going to go. But bringing this back to Mateer, Washington State knew they had a guy, had a guy that is incredibly capable of bringing them to a college football playoff level. Do you realize Washington State was legitimately in the hunt for a college football playoff spot this year? They were sitting at 8-1. Their lone loss was at Boise State, who currently has a bye in the college football playoff, and they had a win in dominant fashion against Texas Tech and a win against Washington. Those are Power 4 bowl teams. Washington won 6 games, Texas Tech won 8. Those were wins that they stacked up early in the year. They fell over the second half of the season. That wasn't the fault of John Mateer. Jake Dickert is getting a new defensive coordinator for that reason. So the reason that this is a frustrating one for Washington State, more so than Cam Ward, is that there was a pitch, there was a concerted effort up in Pullman to make the maximum NIL offer possible. Some reports, I've not been able to confirm anything, are that it was in the 7-figure range, $1 million or more, which for Pullman's NIL collective, that's a lot. That's a lot. And guess what? They came together, they worked hard to keep him as best they could, and it's not enough. That sucks. No other way to see it. And I think some Washington State fans are going to understand John Mateer hitting the portal and maybe winding up at Oklahoma. We'll get to it in a sec. I think there are some Washington State fans who will look at John Mateer and say he's just selling out for the money and all these, and have that negative reaction. I can't hold it against you if you have that negative reaction. That offer was for more money than most college football players that have ever played this sport were ever able to make, especially above table. Not, getting cash in a brown bag as it used to be. Wasn't enough. Washington State put their best foot forward, and it wasn't enough. They've just been screwed again by this whole thing. So if you're a Washington State fan, listening to or watching this, you're frustrated, I got nothing to tell you other than you're 100% deserving of being mad at everything in college football. At everything. It didn't used to be this way. Jake Dickert made the point, well, this used to be a time where I'm sitting back on the couch, kicking up beer, ready to bring back one of the best teams in Washington State memory. And guess what? Now they got to start over at the quarterback position again. They did it once before, but that was with Ben Arbuckle as the offensive coordinator. So the question becomes, where does Mateer wind up? And for John Mateer, the options appear to be down to 2 schools. Oklahoma's the favorite. His offensive coordinator is there. He's from the Texas area. So the proximity to home could be a factor there. However, Miami is reportedly making a late surge. If I'm John Mateer, looking at those 2 programs, what I have to assess clearly are 2 things. Number 1, again, this is if I'm John Mateer, but with just a slant of my particular brain. He is clearly, since Washington State's big NIL offer wasn't enough, which calls back to Damian Martinez turning down $400,000 from Oregon State to go to Miami, where he probably got quite a bit more, despite having at one point in time tweeted out #BuiltNotBought. Well, he kind of got bought, at least a little bit there. So the first thing he's clearly looking at is, well, what's the NIL offer? Because it's going to be in the millions of dollars. This guy is the best quarterback prospect available in the transfer portal. I would take him over Malik Murphy. I would take him over Preston Stone. I'd take him over anybody that is out there. I would take John Mateer. He just had 44 total touchdowns. I know Washington State played a bunch of Mountain West teams, but I told you as well, they went to Oregon State, who fell off a bit in the second half of the season, but also had a Power 4 win on their resume in Purdue, which I guess technically counts as a Power 4 win. They went to Boise State. They were highly competitive. Then the game got away from them a bit at the end. And once again, John Mateer wasn't necessarily the problem as much as the defense was the problem in that game. So this is a guy who can go anywhere. And when you have those options, he's clearly thinking about NIL. How much money can you put into my bank account for one season before I maybe go to the NFL? This is a guy who could have multiple years of college eligibility, by the way. You never know. So the continuity factor with his offensive coordinator at Oklahoma makes a lot of sense. However, I would take a stronger look at Miami than I would Oklahoma. Because if I'm Mateer, yes, NIL is a consideration. Well, I'd imagine both Oklahoma and Miami are going to make compelling offers to try and make your bank account a little bit more flush with cash. So then your next consideration becomes, well, what's the best situation for me? Yeah, I love my offensive coordinator over here. Would love to play in that same system, but who am I playing with? Who do I have? What do I have? Miami just went 10-2 and it was a disappointment. If Oklahoma had gone 10-2 this year, they would have given Brent Venables an extension. Again, they did that anyway before the season. I never thought it made sense. He scraps his way to a bowl game for the second time in the last 3 years. Oklahoma has a lot of questions to answer. Oklahoma has a lot of new. Miami's got a lot of established. Miami's looking at John Mateer and saying, you're the missing puzzle piece to keep this thing going. We were a quarterback-centric offense. We just sent Cam Ward to New York City as a Heisman finalist. You can come do that again. Come run the same offense. Come be the same guy. Keep the Pullman to Miami pipeline alive. That's the pitch if you're Miami. And if I'm John Mateer, I would go to Miami over Oklahoma because I think the Hurricanes have a much stronger chance of winning in 2025 than do the Oklahoma Sooners. Allow me to read you, by the way, Oklahoma's schedule for 2025. Here's who they have to play. Illinois State, win. Michigan at home. Michigan will be vast improved. At Temple. Host Auburn. Bye week. Kent State. Texas. At South Carolina. Ole Miss. At Tennessee. Bye. At Bama. Missouri. LSU. Oh, look, another gauntlet. You want to go through that? Hey, it's your call. But if the NIL offers are in the same category, I prefer winning. Miami's schedule, conversely, in 2025, well, it's in the ACC, so it's obviously not going to be quite as difficult. They do open with Notre Dame. That's a big matchup there. Bethune-Cookman, South Florida. Florida, good team. At Florida State, who knows? Louisville, NC State, Stanford, Syracuse, at Pitt, at SMU, at Virginia Tech. Those games in no particular order. Which of those schedules sounds a lot harder to you? That's right. Oklahoma's by a long shot. So I'd go to Miami. I would. I'm not anti-Oklahoma. I'm just, right now, with the way the schedule rotations work, I would not want to be a part of that because it's going to be difficult again. Whereas Miami, you can lead them to the playoff. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.